Meanwhile, 53 lawmakers and pro-democracy activists were arrested in Hong Kong on Wednesday and were charged for violating the national security law on grounds of subversion. Now, this happens to be the biggest crackdown so far on the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong since the law was imposed by Beijing last year. And this has now invited global criticism of China's suppression tactics of pro-democracy voices in Hong Kong. Let's take a look at how the world is reacting to these Chinese actions. UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said that China's clampdown on pro-democracy activists stands in clear violation of the 1997 Turnover Treaty. He said that the arrests count as further evidence that China is violating the freedom and rights of Hong Kongers.
I think is further evidence that they're violating the freedoms and the autonomy of the people of Hong Kong as protected under the UK-China Joint Declaration and International Treaty. When China first imposed the national security legislation, they said it was to bring some stability to Hong Kong. What is clear from these actions is that actually it is designed to crush political dissent.
The former governor of Hong Kong, Chris Patten, has said that the arrest of the 53 lawmakers was an assault to Hong Kong's freedom and democracy.
They've been arrested because they believe in democracy. They believed once, perhaps, in the promises that Hong Kong was made by the Chinese Communist Party. And as we see right across the board, whether it's Xinjiang or whether it's the coronavirus, the Chinese Communist Party is lying through its teeth. Ministers, spokesmen, and what's happening in Hong Kong. Hong Kong's being run now by the Vice Premier of China, who spends a lot of time in Shenzhen, in somewhere villa, in order to run Hong Kong. And it's an outrage.
A group of democracy advocates condemned the arrest of former lawmakers and democracy proponents in Hong Kong. They called the Chinese action ridiculous to the extreme. The Civic Party members gathered at Hong Kong's press club on Wednesday and chanted slogans of free all political prisoners and stand and fight. Listen in to what the Civic Party's chairman had to say.
This is ridiculous to the extreme. When the Secretary for Security alleged that the 35+ plan was subversive and pushed Hong Kong over a steep cliff, we think that who actually pushed Hong Kong through a steep cliff is the political power who behaved treacherously in not observing what has been promised us under the Basic Law.
Leaders across America have also condemned the arrests. Antony Blinken, Joe Biden's chosen Secretary of State, in a tweet said that the sweeping arrests of pro-democracy demonstrators are an assault on those bravely advocating for universal rights. The Biden-Harris administration will stand with the people of Hong Kong and against Beijing's crackdown on democracy. It is important to note that an American citizen practicing law in Hong Kong was also put behind bars in Wednesday's operation. The European Union has called for the immediate release of dozens of opposition figures arrested in Hong Kong. The spokesperson for the European Commission said that the bloc was eyeing further sanctions on China over its crackdown on the territory.
L'arrestation coordonnée de plus de 50 activistes pro-démocratie sur des accusations de subversion à base de la loi sur la sécurité nationale envoie un signal que le pluralisme politique n'est plus toléré à Hong Kong. La loi sur la sécurité nationale est utilisée pour écraser la dissidence et étouffer l'exercice des droits des hommes et des libertés politiques qui sont protégées par la loi fondamentale de Hong Kong et aussi par le droit international et les obligations et engagements internationaux de la Chine. Donc nous, comme Union européenne, appelons à la libération immédiate des personnes arrêtées.
Among other nations, Germany has also condemned the Wednesday arrests. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson said that the detentions were part of a series of worrying developments taking place in Hong Kong.
Sie bestätigen auch unsere Befürchtung, muss man sagen, dass das Gesetz über die nationale Sicherheit zu einer Erosion von Basic Law für die Hongkongerinnen und Hongkonger garantierten Freiheiten, Rechte und der Rechtsstaatlichkeit führt.
Meanwhile, France denounced the crackdown on pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong and called it a continued deterioration of the situation. The French Foreign Ministry issued a statement slamming the arrests, and an excerpt from the release reads, "This development comes on top of the multiple pressures the press and the pro-democracy opposition have been subjected to over the past months, calling into question the possibility of democratic expression as provided for in the Basic Law of Hong Kong." Australia, meanwhile, has expressed concern over the situation unravelling in Hong Kong. The Foreign Minister, Marise Payne, said, and I quote, "Australia has consistently expressed concern that the national security law is eroding Hong Kong's autonomy, democratic principles and rule of law." And the global human rights organizations have slammed the arrest of pro-democracy proponents in Hong Kong. The Amnesty International Hong Kong has called the incident baseless and kind of state overreach.
Based on what we know so far, it seems like these arrests are, if not baseless, completely over a kind of state overreach in the sense of using this nuclear option of national security law to deal with what is, actually is a sort of, for the authorities at least, is a political problem that they don't like. To treat this as subversion really goes beyond the normal, the expectation of what a state can consider to be national security.